Colors. They're present around us at all times. They make up the world around us. They surround us, penetrate us, and they bind the galaxy together. That sounds kind of weird. I think it's fine. Really? It sounds like, you know. Okay, shut up! Anyway, as I was saying, what does this have to do with painting? Cream, look down. What are you using to paint? Paint? No. Dyes, you idiot. Colored dyes. Speaking of, I'm running out of dyes. How do you run out when it's literally your job to use them? Touché. Well, I'm assuming you know what that means. Hello, and welcome back to episode 40 of KreamGetsStuff. Colors. They're present around us at... You've already heard that. Right. Yeah, I use a lot different colored blocks in my world. I use lots of wool, hardened clay. That's it, actually. But still, that uses a lot of dye. Especially on the scale that I'm working on with some of my projects. And it's really tedious to have to go out and grab all these different colors, look up recipes, because I'm stupid and can't remember what the recipe for magenta dye is. Craft all these things, and I just don't want to bother with it anymore. So, after some thinking, I came up with a brilliant idea. I want to make some sort of place where I can just craft every color of dye. That's all 16 of them. Doing some further research, I divided it down into 7 main colors and 9 that can be crafted from them. Those being red, yellow, green, my favorite, blue, brown, white, and black. But you may ask yourself, where are we going to get all these dyes from? Well, flowers can give me red and yellow, and flower farms are really simple to build. Green comes from smelting a cacti in a furnace, meaning we can just hook up some furnaces to a cactus farm. Blue comes from lapis, which I have a bunch of, but if I wanted a renewable source of it, I can turn to priest villagers. Although that really wouldn't be the best use of my emeralds. Brown comes from cocoa beans, which can also be grown like cactus. White comes from bone meal, which we can just take from the mob farm. I mean, I built it for a reason, right? And black comes from squids dropping ink sacs. Okay. Final question you may have on your mind. Where are we going to put these farms? Well, we have a place for industrial farms. So, with all that figured out, let's begin. I did a lot of testing and pre-planning before I started production of this episode. And for good reason. I didn't really plan out the industrial area at all when I first started building here. And it really shows, especially when you look at it from above. There's a real disproportionate amount of space on either side of the portal center. You know, there's this area and then there's all that space back there. So, I played around a lot with building locations, as well as what kind of buildings to make. I went from greenhouse to factory, although I eventually settled on having different buildings for each farm. As it's probably the best way to kind of bulk out this place a bit. Otherwise we're going to be building a lot of different farms for really niche purposes here. Plus, I mean, you know, it looks cool. I mean, just look at how good it looks with just these 2 buildings. But with that, I also wanted to upgrade this central hub area. And that kind of helped me decide exactly where to place everything. Here, I'm going to structure all of this stuff around this side to the right of the trading hall. It's going to be flattened and everything, but it's a bit hard to see right now, isn't it? Eventually, I want to have this place be like a full circle of buildings and farms and stuff, and then kind of like expand out across the island. That's assuming I ever have enough farms to build to meet that requirement, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. Some things can just be cosmetic. I mean, look at the shipyard, you know, so there's no practical purpose. But there is another big part of infrastructure that's missing here, that being pathways. Yeah, so I'm going to be laying out pathways throughout the whole place. For now, they aren't really going to go anywhere, but every time we add a building here, we can link a pathway to it. I decided on this really artificial look to go with the whole island being super industrial, with like the clay and stuff. I had a conversation over covering the mycelium with grass, but I feel the mycelium fits better. Plus, I like it over grass anyway. I mean, it's a cool texture, and I think people don't talk about that enough. Yeah, so you probably also noticed me digging out a lot of terrain. That's going to be a recurring theme over here, because in the industrial area there is a lot of hills, and I don't really want a lot of hills. If I did want hills, I would build them myself as well, because the generation generally isn't too great, especially on Mushroom Islands. And when you want them nice rolling hills, you know, you're not going to get them unless you build them yourself, or you get extremely lucky with generation, especially in these older versions. Well, after a change of clothes, that's done. But we do need something for these random trucks that I decided to throw in, despite the fact that they don't work and, you know, they're in Minecraft. So rods, it's rods. We need rods. Better. Also, this took a really long time, by the way. Like, I've been at this for hours, you know. I kept running out of materials and I had to make some more shovels, hence why I'm at level 2 now. So, you know, the things I do off camera sometimes don't really get covered, but, you know, it's a bit of a grind sometimes. Well, now that that's done, I can build up what I'm thinking. Hence why I demolished this mound. Yeah, I might have gone a bit over the top, but you know what, it's fine. I'm going to use this space eventually. Oh, something else I forgot to mention. I'm going to do this really quick. I want to put some actual doors in here using redstone instead of just having dirt that I break through. I've already figured it out. It shouldn't take me long to install them, so, you know, I'll get that done, and then we can move on to the dye farm. Done. Done. And done. Dunner. Dunner isn't even a word. Alright, now that I've done that, I should actually get on to building this building, shouldn't I? The way I recorded this, I actually took screenshots, and I don't really know how to transition into it, so, here you go. I think that this is pretty cool. I mean, obviously it isn't finished. I want to have paths going kind of like, you know, outwards from it, and there's going to be more buildings. It's not just this one. This is the first of many. The interior also isn't done, but I was kind of thinking about it, and I want to do something with like dye vats, maybe, to store these different dyes in, because we are literally making dye farms. It only makes sense, right? I added like a skylight as well. I don't really know how the interior is going to come together. I'm just going to have to kind of wing it when it comes to it. I haven't planned that much out, aside from obviously the exterior of this building and kind of like where I'm putting other farms. So I think I'm going to go through. I am going to leave the interiors for now as well, just because I don't really know what I want to do with them. I'm just going to wait until everything's kind of in place, especially with like redstone and stuff, and, you know, transfer tubes or whatever I go with to get all the dyes in this central building. But this is the main building, hence why it's so close to the main ring. So I've laid out some pathways and restocked my supplies in between clips. I've also laid out where I want the cactus farm to be. Now we have to actually get into building the farms and surrounding structures, and I think that the cactus farm is actually the only one I have a clear idea of yet. It's the only one I've actually fleshed out. Super simple, cheap, and effective. This is the KreamGetsStuff approved cactus farm design. Ever been in need of copious amounts of cacti? Don't want to go around chopping them down in the sweltering heat? This is the solution to bring you maximum comfort as well as efficiency. Just assemble it and watch it go. Comes with the free KreamGetsStuff approved chaise longue. The product does not actually come with a chaise longue. Anyway, here it is. It's super simple, but I do need to cover it up with a building still. So, let me go do that. Oh, by the way, if you didn't realize yet, this video is probably going to be pretty time-lapse heavy. I'll try and keep them as quick as possible, both for your sake and mine, but, you know, just to let you know, there's going to be a few coming up in, you know, the next 5 minutes or so, I'm guessing. And there she is. Now, I did choose to omit time-lapsing the rest of the walls from the main time-lapse just for time's sake. I might do that with other builds, you know, if I'm building the same thing 4 times over, which is what I was doing here. You know, I really like this build. I think it's the most visually interesting, aside from the shipyard, but like that doesn't count because it doesn't serve like a functional purpose. That was made for aesthetics. You know, out of all these buildings, I think that one is my favorite right now. Although, in saying that, I do really like the diagonal wall on the villager breeder. I think this is another good one. I also apologize if I sound a bit rough. I'm a bit sick right now. But the show must go on. So now I need to go about building the other farms, namely the flower and cocoa bean farm, as they're the only ones I really need now. I did go through a few different designs for both the farms themselves and the buildings they inhabit. I was originally thinking of doing like an industrial greenhouse type of build, because they're all, you know, plant-based, but that would be really boring because it would pretty much just be a glass box. And I'm really enjoying these types of factory builds with the brick and stuff like that. So, I made another one like that instead. I am going to build it in chunks just because I haven't really planned out what the whole thing is going to look like. I've only got like the basics kind of. And also because I'm really running out of ways to make time lapses engaging. So, yeah, I'll clear out some more space and I'll get going. Okay. Welcome back. I put both farms out and I've laid out the base of the building just to kind of get a feel for where things are going to go. I've also extended the path and cleared out the space for the building. Both of these farms are my design, but they're super simple. The flower farm just shifts the grass floor back and forth to break all the flowers that are grown with bone meal. It is a bit loud, so I apologize. I might have to turn it down in editing. It also doubles as a pretty good seed farm, now that I look at it, which I suppose that's a plus if I ever need thousands of seeds. This is a problem. That's the problem. I can get stuck in this farm. And the cocoa bean farm just bone meals them and breaks them. You have to time it right, but once you do, there you go. All it does is bone meal them, break them with a piston, and I collect them. Like I said, super simple. Step 2 is building up the building. Now, obviously, I've already started that, which I think is coming along alright. It's going to be like a rectangle, but I'm going to try and make it look a bit more interesting with, you know, a few accents and stuff like that to kind of make it pop. But really, all it has to do is cover up these two farms. You know, there's not going to be, I'm going to have probably a flat roof. I'm not going to have a second floor because storage can maybe go on that wall there or somewhere over there. You know, it's not a big issue. Not to mention most of the dyes will be stored in there anyway. So I'm going to build up the rest of the front face and then I'm going to have to fill in the rest of it. And we'll just see how it goes. Yeah, this looks miles better. So now you can kind of see like where we're going with this. I haven't added everything yet. We're gonna put some signs up eventually. I need to add like a door. I don't want to use an actual door because it could. I mean, the villager spawn is far enough away now. I had to remove the doors in the trading hall because they were interfering with the villager breeder. But I think this should be far enough away to where it won't do that. So we'll have to test that. Now, I put the walls in. I have left these two blank because obviously I want to put chests against this, and this is the back wall. But I've tried my best to keep them in theme. You know, I put in a big glass window on this side because I thought we'd need more natural light. The only thing really now is the roof, which I haven't figured out, but I'm sure it won't be that hard. I tried to make the back side as interesting as possible, but let's be honest, it's the back of a build. It doesn't have to look that good. Looking at you, Green. So, I've put in the roof, and I've kind of laid out some stuff. I don't think I'm going to really give these buildings much of an interior. I didn't with the cactus farm, mainly because I had an input chest on the outside, which I don't think I've actually shown yet. You can kind of see it there through the window. But this is pretty simple. I just made sure it was light enough for the grass platform to grow properly, and I moved the cocoa bean farm back to make room for this chest wall, which is probably never going to be filled, but I thought it looked nice, so... And yeah, the farms do work, and the results speak for themselves. Now, to be honest, aside from decorating the main building, this was going to be the end point for this episode. I'm sure you have questions, such as, where are we going to get the other colours from? I own a shipping line. I can just ship them in from, I don't know, China or something. But I'm not actually going to end the episode yet, because there are a few things that bug me about the industrial area, and there are a few expansions that I want to make to certain areas as well. I want to modernize the funhouse and the villager breeder by adding in a mix of hardened clay and jungle wood here and there, just like I've done on the botanical farms over here. I really like this mix of blocks, because it just serves to add a bit more texture to what's usually like a pretty boring wall. You know, not too much, but just enough to where we end up with something that's a bit more interesting. Also, I want to take a bit of time to add a new room into the funhouse. I want to add an office. You see, there is a really big circular window up there with nothing behind it. And I thought I might as well try and put something there. So, you know, even if it's just decorative, I'd like to add like a bit of an office, considering there's a whole waiting room reception thing going on up top as well. It also gives me a place to put something I've really wanted for a while, being a map of the whole island and surrounding ocean. But first, let me craft some dyes and decorate the main building, you know, the actual reason this episode is being made first. And here we are. Now, I did kind of try and stick with the dye vat theme, as you can kind of see from whatever these are, but I eventually settled with like these sort of like wool dyeing machines instead. You know, I've just found a way to store it easily without like being too much of a hassle. This is the best I'm gonna get, really. It's very hard to convey the type of machinery that they would have in a dye factory, so I just threw some computers in. I used a bit of bedrock to kind of resemble like screen static, maybe some glowstone, both act as lighting and maybe, I don't know, some sort of program. It's all very improv, but I really like it. And yes, I have gone through and, you know, made a bunch of dyes of each colour. Some less, you know, if I don't use them, but for the most part, should all be here. Next up, the old factory buildings. I thought I'd do this off camera because it's really just swapping blocks out. So, here you go. And finally, I built up the office. And yes, it took me a while to fill up the map wall. A lot of swimming. And I'm severely out of shape. Anyway, as the sun goes down over our little industrial area, I think that's probably where I'm going to end the episode. It's still not really like to the length that I would have wanted it to be. I try and aim for at least like 20 minutes, but you know, it's been long enough since I posted a video. So, with that being said, thank you very much for watching. This is another episode of KreamGetsStuff, the series where I do smart stuff in the dumbest way possible. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you later.
So, this will all be mine. You don't know what's going to you.